John Bauer, they've replaced the power steering through that car, so he'll be taking part in this one. He broke the belt in the opening race, which caused all those dramas. A change in the rear axles for Larry Perkins, which caused his retirement. And here's an odd one for you. Brad Jones' brake temperature went through the roof in the last race. He clobbered a rabbit, unfortunately, and it blocked the ducting.
Wasn't Sarah Marie, was it?
Here's the grid. And Mark Scaife will take pole position after winning race 1. Craig Lowndes alongside him, Bernard, Kelly, Johnson, Tander, Bright and Ingle.
Jason Bargwanna and Cameron McConville. Glenn Seaton and Brad Jones, good effort that. Tony Longhurst and Stephen Ellery, Paul Morris and Marcus Ambrose.
Radisish, Forbes, Richards, Faulkner, Wheel, McLean, Mazira in 24.
If you look down the side of the Shell Helix grid, you'll see those yellow boxes. That signifies where they qualified, and you get an idea of how they performed throughout the day.
A rabbit in the brake ducting. It took me a while to get my thoughts together for the grid there. Thanks for that report, Greg. We've got one bloke driving a ute and for VIP Pet Foods. Another bloke giving us reports on rabbits in brake ducting.
Yeah.
That bloke's got an animal problem. Front row of the grid, Scaife and Lowndes. We're set for a start. There's Russell Ingle carrying one of 6 cameras. We are set to go racing for 36 laps. And it's Scaife up the inside.
Bernard, look at that.
Very close between the two of them. Bernard's made a good start as well. 3 wide as they go down to turn 1. Somebody has to give.
Look at Bernard sweeping around on the outside. He might challenge for the lead on the outside, but he's not well positioned for turn 2.
Bang.
Lowndes gives Scaife a bit of a touch up on the rear as they come through turn 2.
Bernard's going to end up in the box seat here as they go to the braking area for turn 3.
What a go.
And Scaife trying to make sure that Lowndes can't go with him. That's a remarkable situation to go 3 wide into turn 1 and for Bernard to take control of the race. That's an extraordinary start.
Well, Scaife now is right on the outside as they head up over the bridge for the first time. It's the 2 Fords that have muscled through.
Stephen Johnson's going to go underneath Scaife the way things are looking there. No, Mark's been able to take the road back from him.
This is the real... Oh, Amber, with the fortunes of this team, how they've gone completely the opposite, haven't they?
Good presence of mind from Marcus then. He grabbed the brake before he shot back into the middle of the traffic. This is turn 8, looking back from Craig Lowndes' car. Looking at Mark Scaife, race 1 winner and reigning champion and points leader. He's under attack at the moment, and he has a look down the inside, but no, can't make the move into the final corner.
It's going to be interesting to see what the officials do here. I'm sure they'll be replaying that incident from turns 1 and 2. See if any blame can be apportioned for some position changes there. So everyone will be holding their breath in pit lane. The officials have been fast and very keen to apply penalties lately. So it's going to be interesting to see if there's any judgment made on that incident. Meanwhile, the race continues, and David Bernard, brilliant start in the Javelin Ford. He's really opening it up.
It just shows you what a little bit of a good result does to your confidence, doesn't it?
Well, one of the changes that he was talking before about the changes the team's made to the braking system.
He's up
is
the
this
inside of him.
by
He's going to get him. He's got
Scaife.
track position. He crisscrossed him coming out of 3, and that was a pretty handsome manoeuvre. And Scaife was able to take ground back off Lowndes, and that's something you don't see that often on the run to turn 4.
I was going to say one of the changes that the Stone Brothers team have made to the Javelin Ford is to actually install a handbrake for David. The idea being that he can juggle the accelerator and the foot brake off the line without having to worry about the car creeping.
That's really a good idea. It amazes me that they don't do something like that or make it. Oh, that was, you've got to hand it to Bernard. That was a brilliant.
Bit of opportunism. Oh, look at the squeeze as they came out of turn 3. Lowndes was well positioned on the inside. Scaife had to give way, but he eventually got that position back at the same part of the track a lap later. Looking back from Lowndes' car, you can see Scaife trying to muscle back. Oh, a bit of a contact too. See the damage there on the front of the bonnet. Stephen Johnson trying to find position as well, but Scaife covered his territory. And now he's out after pursuit of David Bernard, our race leader.
That was an entertaining opening lap or so there, wasn't it? With Bernard coming from 3 wide, managing to hold his ground around the outside. That's something you don't see too often. And then he was in the box seat when they went down to turn 3, and then all that crisscrossing between Scaife and Lowndes. And then Scaife ultimately coming out with the upper hand as they went down to turn 4. So when it settles down, what are we left with? We've got Bernard, Scaife, Lowndes, Johnson, Tander, Bright, Ingle, Bargwanna, McConville, Kelly. And the fastest lap so far has gone to Bernard with a 1 minute 9.72, just fractionally quicker than Scaife, who's almost mirrored that time.
Just by the speed that Mark Scaife has shown here, particularly in race 1, you can't imagine that Bernard's going to be able to hold him out for long. He's got so much speed on board that #1 car, and he's really closed the gap to the Javelin Ford that previous lap.
I tell you what, the speed of that Stone Brothers thing's not it's not out of the ballpark by any stretch of the imagination.
No, he's been doing a terrific job. Currently 24th in the championship. He's not worried about championships here. He wants race wins. Bernard.
Oh,
Very keen.
I could hear somebody locked a brake on the way in there to 2, and you could hear it yelping. Scaife's really starting to apply pressure now to Bernard, so this will be interesting. A terrific overhead shot of turn 3. Lots of little bumps in the track there between 3 and 4. A huge hollow in the road just here on the bridge approach. Scaife looking to try and accelerate up the inside of Bernard.
Tremendously exciting moment for the Stone Brothers, watching their young charge. Really turning it on here at Oran Park, showing the speed and the promise that they felt he always had. David Bernard, just 24 years of age, was living in Sydney, moved up to the Gold Coast to be close to the Stone Brothers operation. Man with great pedigree, absolutely dominated the Australian Formula 4 Championship back in 1996.
He was looking at his mirrors then, because he sort of half left the door open for Mark, and you can't do that. You've either got to close it or you've got to open it. Scaife's got a run on him now, and it might have been a better corner exit speed for Scaife, and it's enough to take the lead, or is it not?
Yes.
So job done.
Bernard gives him room on the inside.
It was hard then, because you could see that Bernard sensed that Scaife might have been up the inside of the final corner, and it just left a little bit of incentive, and that was enough for Scaife to get the run onto the straight.
If you think of the times that Mark was doing in the first race, I mean, basically he was sort of 3/4 of a second quicker than they were going then. Look at the times they're doing now, 10s.
10.5 for Bernard, 10.2 for Mark Scaife.
Something to watch out for. The officials have had a word to the drivers. They say they will not tolerate curb hopping, but that we mean if they drive to the apex of the corner, they are allowed to drive over the painted ripple strip, but if they move and cut the corner anymore and drive over the cement strip on some of these corners, they will suffer a bad sportsmanship flag, any more offences, and they will get a severe stop-go penalty.
Well, that seems like the whole field's going to get a stop-go penalty then, doesn't it? It's just about everybody's doing it, and at the end of the day, if they don't want people to drive on things, they shouldn't put concrete the other side of the curbs.
Well, that's the critical difference. Mark Scaife's just on a 1.96 with a clear track in front of him. Bernard a 10.7.
Well, no, Scaife's actually lowered that again, Mark. His last lap was a 1.91, the one prior to that, so his fastest lap is extraordinary. You're right, his last lap was a 9.6, but it was the one before that was the telling lap. And the speed that he cranked on to be able to round up Lowndes and Bernard is quite remarkable.
It is, it really is the dominant chassis setup at Oran Park. And they're using it to good effect. What you can't ignore in this whole package is Mark Scaife's driving as well. He really does set this car up brilliantly, and he drives it to within thousandths of a second of its ultimate potential, lap after lap after lap.
Looking at the back of Jim Stone there from Stone Brothers Racing, and he's watching his charge in second place. And the last lap, Scaife, just interesting to look at times here. The last lap for Scaife, as you pointed out, Mark, a 1.96. Bernard a 1.10.7, 1.1 seconds slower. Then Lowndes 1.10.3, Johnson 1.10.4, Tander 1.10.3. So Scaife's speed relative to those guys after only 5 laps of racing is extraordinary.
Is a lot faster, basically.
Sprinting away, another 9.4, a 9.4 for Scaife, a 10.3 for Bernard. The lead out to 1.8 seconds, so he's doing exactly what he did in race 1, just demonstrably better speed than anyone else on the track.
The others have got good speed for a lap or two, but then it drops off quite remarkably. A big step down in tyre performance, with the exception of Scaife.
Oscar Fiorinotto has just been on the radio to Craig Lowndes. They're asking him, can he extract any more speed out of the Gibson Motorsport Ford? They are concerned that if Mark Scaife continues to gallop away the way that he is at the moment, it'll be too much of a gap to make up.
Yeah, well, you're always looking to leapfrog with the compulsory pit stop situation, but as we saw in race 1, it really doesn't come up to mean anything when you've got a car with that much more speed on board.
I would think this earlier on, Craig would be going as quick as he could go.
Yeah, if it's one thing that you get from Craig, it's 11 tenths every lap until the checkered flag comes out. So I think Oscar might be being a bit optimistic, asking if there's another percent left anywhere.
Oh yeah, and that's really what you need to hear, isn't it?
Yeah, can you find another half a second out there, Craig? So the order: Scaife, Bernard,
Battle stations down here at Shell here exposing us, of course, as the lap window, the pit stop window is just about to open, but it was nearly foiled by John Faulkner, who has a problem. They were all set to get Stevie Johnson to come in, and John has a problem and parked it there. So Dick had to come over and politely ask, please park your car so we can get in and do our pit stop.
So David Bernard, one of the first cars to peel off into pit lane to make his compulsory stop. Here it comes, the Caltex Javelin machine. And this team incredibly well drilled. They did a tyre change in 9.3 seconds in race 1. That made a huge difference to David's position when he rejoined the track. Let's have a look at how they go this time. That's quick.
Well, that's good.
Under 10 seconds. So the Stone Brothers team well drilled.
Incidentally, that... Oh, and Larry's gone off. That manoeuvre that you saw Jason Bright pulling on Garth Tander was a positional manoeuvre for 5th, so he's moved up from 6th to 5th, and obviously there's some stops now as well, so that order will change next lap through.
So Craig Lowndes takes over 2nd place as a result of David Bernard peeling off into pit lane, so it's Scaife, Lowndes, Johnson still out on the track in those top 3 positions.
It's funny that Gary Rogers... Oh, look at this. Rodney Forbes. Oh, Larry will be really happy about that one. Yeah. The Gary Rogers car's been healing up over the weekend, haven't they? Been getting better and better.
They need to start their race meeting about 4 o'clock Sunday.
Yeah, you're right.
So Mark Scaife takes the opportunity to peel off. And there's a number of cars you can see behind him on the queue. Tumbling down pit lane at 40 kilometres an hour. It seems like an eternity here. Scaife watching his speed limiter very, very closely.
And that incident between Larry Perkins and Rodney Forbes is going to result in Rodney being given a stop-go penalty. Next time by, he'll get the flag for that, the black flag, and he'll have to come down to the end of the pit lane. And that'll be a long and costly stop for him.
Look at that, 12 seconds.
Oh!
So he's lost 2 seconds on David Bernard just while they were stationary. So the Stone Brothers team have really been putting in some practice on wheel changing. Very well drilled here at Oran Park, clearly the fastest in race 1.
That was an awkward situation then for Mark Larkin coming in. There was traffic, and you can see how hard it is sometimes to get the car in position. When the guys are set up with all the rattle guns and the wheels and they're in position, if the car doesn't arrive in the marked spot, they've got to shift everything. Oh, look, we've got problems here with Morris, the front right-hand corner looking second-hand.
It's amazing how your fortunes can change. We're on board with Craig Lowndes now as he peels off for his compulsory stop.
His last lap was a shocker, a 1:12.6, so either traffic or a mistake or something has cost him time on the last lap.
Jason Bright's gone with him.
Oh, I know what it is. It's the fact that he's actually come into the pit lane. He's had to slow down and then he's gone across the timing line. So think it through, Crompton. Sorry, Craig, it wasn't a shocker. You're doing a great job.
Watch the Monroe pit stop timer. 12.7, that's considered tardy these days.
Oh, look at that. That was perfect. That was Brad Jones just coming in.
Competition amongst these pit teams, tense. 1/10 of a second, 100th of a second you can save in a tyre change. All adds up at the end of the race. So now Russell Ingall takes over as race leader. Russell had a good run throughout practice.
Oh, look at this.
He's gone up the
He's
inside.
got up the inside, yeah.
And got him. That's 4th position. Bargwanna to the lead. McConville runs with them. Some different strategies being played out here at the moment.
Bargwanna a 1:10.5, Ingall a 1:11.2. Not earth-shattering lap times if they're trying to get out there and open a bit of a gap on the competition. Bargwanna now moves up to lead this race, but it's only going to be temporarily. They'll have to make their compulsory stops, these 3.
The right rear tail light assembly is hanging out of the Bargsmobile there as well, so it's winking at Russell. It sort of lays back and then it sits down. I just had some messages through as we look at Glenn Seaton taking his stop as well, that Rodney Forbes addressed the situation between himself and Larry Perkins, I think, and somehow allowed Larry to go back in front of him, so he may not have to take a stop go as a result of the contact. Bargwanna actually looking a bit speedy here now, Larry, and he's skipping away from Russell Ingall, and not meaning it in a sarcastic way, but by the end of the race weekend, these guys have actually got the pace. They just, if they could just get it a bit earlier in the weekend, they'd be back on the money.
Yeah, I was talking to Garth, and he said they found geometry problem with it, and they sorted it out. And basically, they've gone back to more or less what they had last year now, and they're just sort of but of course, they've done all their settings with the wrong sort of geometry all the way through the year, and that leads you totally up the garden path, doesn't it?
I think this will be our new race leader, Mark.
Well, he's currently 4th on the road. So, yeah, he'll take over the lead now, but he'll still to make his compulsory stop. The first of the cars that have made their stops, surprise, surprise, is Mark Skate. He's back in 12th in the queue at the moment, but he's in front of David Bernard in 2nd and Craig Lowndes in 3rd. That should be the order once all these compulsory stops have been completed.
Fumble, that's the sort of thing that costs valuable time. Doesn't take much. And as a result of that fumble, Russell's back out in front of Jason. So there you go.
Yeah, it's critical, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just so much pressure and you lose a position. So here's race leader Paul Radicic. Tony Longhurst, Greg Murphy, Mazira, Ambrose, Richards. Yeah, because they've got to go back to Scaife, who's now moved up to 10th. He's the first of the cars to make its compulsory pit stop in the queue.
Has McConville stopped? No, I think McConville's actually still out there, and he's actually leading. So we've got Radicic in 2nd place behind McConville, and the last lap through McConville 10.4, Radicic 10.2, 3.7 second margin to this man. So Harry McConville in the lead. Paul Radicic just probably thought that he was safely inside the top 10 yesterday, and then got rattled down the order at the last minute, which pushed him out of the shootout. Someone having a big lock-up on the run into turn 2 there.
Speed of Mark Skate, he's just on a 9.5. Look at the times around him. Everyone's 10s, 11s and 12s. Fastest lap of the race was a 9.1. He said on lap 3. On lap 11, he's done a 9.5.
Well, he's got that car sitting down a lot in the backside, and the front wheels drop out of the guards that quick. It's like it doesn't have any rebound in the shock at all. It looks very different, but it's working well, isn't it?
Sure does. Ground hundreds of laps around this place. Worked very hard on getting the right setup. Conville issue race leader from Radicic, Longhurst, Ambrose, Mazira, Richards, Scaife and Bernard. David Bernard, 9.8 his previous lap. Lowndes a 9.6. So he's really starting to close in on the back of the Javelin Ford. This is the battle for 2nd. Mark Scaife about 2.5 seconds up the road. So this battle for 2nd isn't over yet by a long shot.
We're watching David Bernard in action there on track, and his teammates in pit lane with us at the moment. Marcus Ambrose, what's happened?
Yeah, we're drawing the short straw this weekend. Just hasn't gone our way. We've broken an engine. I don't know what it's all about, but you know, we'll fight on for the next one.
You had a fire in the airbox during practice on Friday. The boys have had that off a moment ago. Is it linked to that?
No, that was the beginning of our problems. It mucked our qualifying up, and then we're back in the pack. It's got nothing to do with the current problem now, so we just had to pull it apart and see what's wrong with it. Good luck, Marcus. Thank you.
What a massive change in fortunes.
Look at this.
Look at this.
It's battle for 2nd, side by side as they break hard for turn 3. Bernard on the inside. Lowndes wants to argue. Tries the switch back as they head up toward the bridge. Turn 4.
Ooh, he had to
dear.
lock up then. That was
I was
pretty
gonna say,
close.
yeah.
He was looking pretty aggressive and thinking I might be able to go up the inside, but there wasn't room, and he had to have it all squeaking to not hit the back of David then.
Well, David Bernard, he's got to be consistent here. He's got to get a result. He could end up on the podium if he plays his cards right. That'd be an amazing turnaround. This is where the Stone brothers have been lacking this year so far. They've had 2 young guns, but Marcus Ambrose has been doing an outstanding job where David's been struggling. But when you have a situation where you've got 2 strong drivers, if one fails, the other one can pick up the pieces.
Is that Larry Castrol
Yeah,
car
I
just
think
in front? I
it is.
think it must be. Yes, it is. Because he's actually maintaining that pace at the moment.
He's back in 25th. And
Yeah, he's 10.3 the last lap, and
gone a lap down to Mark Scaife.
these guys are doing 10.6 and 10.8. What have we got going on here?
Who's that? That's
Glenn
Glenn.
Seaton. And there's probably more to that story.
So Lowndes has not been able to find a way past Bernard. Bernard proving a tough customer here. Having his moment in the sun. He's not enjoyed a good season so far. Shown glimpses of speed at various meetings, but now he's really nailed it this weekend. He's been fast throughout untimed practice. Pre-qualifying, was good in the top 10. Took 3rd, best qualifying effort ever. He's had a very consistent run today, right at the front of the pack.
I never forget watching him at the Clipsal 500 at Adelaide. He was trying so hard.
Yeah.
Everything was going wrong. He tried up. The harder he tried, the slower he went.
So Mark Scaife, the gap now 4.1 seconds to David Bernard in 2nd.
Big heavy race cars with a rhythm different to just about any other racing vehicle in the world. And gee, look how close Mark was up against that wall. And they don't respond to being thrown around. In fact, sometimes the more aggressively you drive them, the slower you go, and they're very easy to flat spot tyres. And it can be a real handful in some circumstances.
David admits that's probably his biggest problem, Neil. It's just disciplining yourself.
Oh!
And it's just heard from the officials. Lowndes has been awarded a bad sportsmanship flag for
Bow.
Bow. Oh, good. Thought it might have been Lounsey there for a minute, but you see Lowndes there hitting the back of the Javelin forward under brakes for turn 2. He's really starting to hustle.
Wow, there's no way that Bernard's going to give it up easy, is there? You know, after the season that he's had, it's watch this.
Look at this again.
Actually, here Craig's got the brakes locked at that point. The inside front was well and truly alight most of the way into turn 2 there.
4.3 seconds, so Scaife's just pumped it out another couple of tenths over these two.
This little battle that these two are having, and with Larry as the meat in the sandwich, would actually be helping Mark's cause at the moment.
One of the reasons why David Bernard is doing such a sterling job is because he had one of the quickest, if not the quickest, pit stop of the lot at a fantastic 9.4 seconds. His teammate Marcus Ambrose was one of the slowest at 18.4 and a stall, and the slowest of all was Mark Larkham at a 21.3 second pit stop. Greg Rust?
Went down to Larkham Motorsport just while Grant was chatting there and had a word to some of the boys. I've got some pretty slick weather collecting data down there. It's around about 17 degrees at the circuit at the moment. There are some heavy black clouds off to the south, but it's not going to be enough to cause a concern. Check the barometric pressure, and a sudden downward skew in barometric pressure normally means rain. Doesn't look like we're going to get any of that today.
It's a nice 33-degree day inside Craig Lowndes' car at the moment. Need your shorts on, have a drink, T-shirt.
Retired.
Yeah, it's some problem there with car 35, and it looked like it had a rub down the side, so there's a puzzle to solve there. And there's Jace.
Scaife, meanwhile, is cruising a 10.1 as opposed to a 10.8 for Bernard. 5 seconds the lead.
It might be showing 17 or 18 degrees air temperature out there, but when you take the wind chill into account, it's been a pretty breezy old southwesterly breeze, whipping up huge seas in and around Sydney in the last couple of days, and that's certainly pulled the numbers down.
Just looks so good, that HRT thing.
Yeah, he's got the car working really well. He's driving it well. There's the margin. It gives you a great idea of the gap back to second and third. And now it looks like David's broken away slightly from Craig. And he's actually now looking for a way by Larry, who is one lap down. And they're showing him the blue flag. So next round of the series will be the Queensland 500, round 9, August 26th. First of the genuine endurance events this year, 500 kilometres, 2 drivers on board, and a lot of points on offer, so that'll be another different type of event again.
And they
You get another drive, Neil.
Yes.
Crompton's returned to the cockpit.
Crompton's returned. And they've sorted out all the traffic problems now, so you won't have any queuing up to get in, and we can all stand and cheer you on then, Neil.
That'll be nice. It's a shame that race wasn't about March, really.
Well, they know that Crompton's driving now, so there'll be 100,000 there.
Yeah, that's
Quite,
probably...
yeah, right. It'll be a weekend where they cut their lawns.
So Scaife continues to build. It's just hovering around a 5-second lead. Well in command of this one. 1 minute 10.6 to a 10.8 for Bernard. So well and truly controlling this one from the front. Doesn't need to drive it any faster than he needs to. Just the minimum buffer he needs to comfortably bring this one home.
The good thing about endurance races is that it brings another 32 guys back into the game again. So, you know, that's a good thing. It's that I think if it weren't for that, we'd be waiting for a while.
Until Russell's struggling today, he looks red in the face, red and shiny.
Whenever the car isn't working right, it's remarkable how much harder it can be. And it's just not been quite right for Russell all day, all weekend, really. He is our DreamDrive.tv ambassador. Just picks up the ripple strip on the inside there to help get the car around the corner. Sometimes when the car isn't behaving properly, these cars, as you know, have got a spool diff, so the 2 rear wheels are tied together. You can effectively drive them a little bit like a go-kart. If you can encourage the inside rear wheel off the road, you can help the car to turn. Maybe that's what Russell's doing down there at turn 2. Greg Murphy up to 12th. Remember, he didn't get too far in race 1. He was involved in some dive bombing. Gee, the back of the car looks a bit ordinary, doesn't
fuel
it?
tank. Fuel tank's taking a big hit. It's running very, very close to the road surface. So hopefully things will be okay for the rest of the race for Murphy. Has not had a good weekend.
Bright's quite a long way back from Lowndes, so there's really no threat to third place at the moment. And I think, if anything, Lowndes has just lost touch a bit from Bernard in the last few laps. He's just drifting into the higher 10s now, 10.8 the last lap. Jason Bright goes through. And Scaife's last lap was a 1:10.5, 1:10.6 for Bernard, 1:10.8 for Lowndes, 1:11.3 for Bright. But you can see that Jason's mixed up in traffic, and it doesn't take much to upset the lap time there.
Just looking at the overall points for the weekend too, Mark Scaife will walk away with another 286 to add to his total. Very closely fought battle for second, down to 242 points for Bernard and 246 for Lowndes. So Bernard really has thrust himself back into the thick of things here.
The big oversteer off the bridge gives the answer a little bit to what's going on with Craig's car at the moment. It's obviously not quite looking after its rear tyres perhaps as much as he'd like. He's not giving up in this fight in the chase for David, though. This is second and third. They're coming up, I think, onto the back of Rodney Forbes, the number 7 red car, also from the Gibson Motorsport stable. Scaife's off on the 27th lap.
1:10.6, so maintaining those times around the mid 1 minute 10 second bracket.
Yeah, I think the last lap must have been an aberration for Craig, because this one was a 10.5. So actually the 3 leaders, in fact the top 4, 5 cars all doing absolutely identical times. Scaife, Bernard, Lowndes, Bright and Tander all in the absolute mid-10s, and this reinforces the point that we made in the opening of the telecast at Calder, that it gets down to the micromanagement of things like your qualifying and your starting and how you deal with the initial traffic in the first couple of corners. Because of the calibre of these drivers and these teams, there isn't much between the cars once you get racing.
Critical championship this round for Scaife. You see that Russell Ingall and Stephen Johnson both further down the order. Stephen Johnson in 6th, Russell Ingall in 7th. This is going to be critical in their points chase of Scaife as this series unfolds.
Old friends Brad Jones and John Bowe hard at it here. They are battling for 14th and 15th, and Glenn Seaton is in this battle as well. He's 16th. Remember, we saw Glenn getting a bit of a shove off the road there before. So Bradley and Glenn are maintaining this ongoing close relationship on the track, aren't they?
Yeah, you see how hard that is and see the position it's for. It's quite incredible, isn't it?
Bad sportsmanship flag has been shown to Craig Lowndes now. John Bowe got one earlier in the race.
That'll be for bringing dirt up, using too much of the curbing. Bradley looking up the inside of John Bowe. I think he's going to get him here. He might have got a better run. They had a successful test at Calder last week for the Aussie Mail car, and they got the car circulating quite quickly, so they feel they've made strong improvements, and there you go. Bradley just making a move there on John.
Sure, Mark would consider this his rightful place. Keep in mind, Holden Racing Team just recently went 4 rounds without a win. That's the first time they've done that since 1996. So it was a long time out of the winner's circle for the factory team.
Apologies also to Cam McConville. When we went to the break, I said before he was in 18th. I mean, 18 seconds arrears in 8th. Some people aren't very bright.
I'm sure he won't be offended. There's the gap between 2nd and 3rd place, David Bernard. But Craig Lowndes now is falling into the clutches of Jason Bright, the 2nd Holden Racing Team Commodore. He's just been closing that gap. There he is there. So Craig perhaps struggling toward the end of this race. He's going to have his work cut out, holding out the Holden Racing Team Commodore. Seems to have a fair bit of speed on board now.
The crowd figures come through to us. 28,000 people at Oran Park today. Probably not quite as strong as last year. I can't remember the official figure, but the weather in Sydney this morning was just atrocious, and we've had shocking weather in the last few days. It's actually continued to be dry out here, so it's probably something of a discouragement to some fans coming out and watching their V8 Supercars live. If you didn't come out and you're watching us on Network 10, hope you're enjoying the coverage.
So this is interesting. If Bright gets in front of Lowndes, there's Natalie Lowndes, Craig's wife, watching on from the pit lane. Nervous, no doubt, as that Holden Racing Team Commodore starts to home in on the back of the Ford. But if Bright can get in front of Lowndes, that will actually elevate Bernard to 2nd overall on the day.
Yes, yeah, it will.
So he's fighting for 2nd place on the podium as well here. So Craig Lowndes got his headlights on, Maximum intimidation from Jason Bright, who's still second in the Shell Championship Series points in this result today. Keep him right on top of the bubble.
Talking about intimidation, Mark, what happens sometimes with these guys as well is you'll see a bit of a rub here and there. Whoops, we've got a replay here of Rodney Forbes off at turn 2. And
what's that, Larry nearly got? Or is that Russell? No, it's Russell.
This is getting pretty hot. I reckon Jason's got quite a bit more car speed at this point in the race.
Yeah.
10.7 the last lap, and for him an 11 flat for Craig.
He's caught him hand over fist right onto the rear bumper of the car now. Lowndes is struggling. It's going to be a hard fight to hold him out from here. Look how much the car gets sideways under power.
I was going to make the point that some of the tapping that you see is done to try and unsettle the other guy. And you see a little bit of it's almost sort of professional fouling in a sense. But you can't go too far. The stewards have really been sort of pretty tight and on top of the game since the Adelaide event, where a lot of people felt things got out of control. And since then, if you want to make a good move, you've got to make it stick.
Look at how much road Lowndes is using. He's just straight lining the flip-flop there, almost 4 wheels off the bitumen. Just trying every trick he knows to hold out this Holden Racing Team Commodore, but he's got 5 laps now to endure. It's going to be a hard ask.
Glenn Seaton is now on the attack, right in behind the cat car of John Bowe. I bumped into John between races briefly and just shook his head and grumbled and groaned and wanted to know if we could swap jobs.
Yeah.
And I'd say that, you know, looking at the day he's had at the moment, maybe it's quite pleasant here in the commentary box.
Yeah,
it's quite incredible. Yeah, it's quite incredible how it's turned around. It was interesting looking at some old vision from 1998 when we were putting that Dunlop story together earlier on, and seeing John driving that DJR Falcon with the Dunlop rubber. He was still very, very much at the front of the field there.
That's going to be an interesting change next year, and it'll mean that a lot of teams have got to go back to the drawing board. Each tyre has very different behaviour, even within a brand, let alone changing from brand to brand. And this will be an interesting test of team and driver as we go back with Craig Lowndes looking rearward at Jason Bright.
Well, he's doing a terrific job here. I thought he would have been passed by now. Look at the speed.
This is where he'll be, he's going to be strong.
Yeah, good run there.
See, corner exit speeds up. That gives him the run he's looking for onto the straight. And that could be the 2 or 3 Ks he needs to come up the inside, which he has now done. That's the problem with the defensive line, isn't it?
Oh dear.
Yeah,
you can see Jason got the thing that got it wide and got it on early, didn't he? And it was got the run and it's all over Red Rover.
Craig's natural instinct is to cover going into the final turn, turn 11. That makes the radius of the corner tighter. It makes it harder to get the power on early, has to wait longer. So Jason went out very wide, waited, picked his power up early, took a shallower line. This is one of the things that people often confuse. They say, oh, you see so-and-so's got that much more horsepower than another car. It's actually not at all. It's very often to do with corner exit speed, line positioning, the state of your tyres and your suspension setup.
Well, Jason Bright will go straight to the top of David Bernard's Christmas card.
Yes, that puts Bernard up into 2nd overall now as a result of Bright disposing of Lowndes there.
Having said that, I don't think the HRT cars want too much for horsepower, but people talk a lot about horsepower in this game, and there's not very much between most of the major players.
He is the man of the moment. Miraculous turnaround in form. 3 laps remaining for David Bernard to bring it home 2nd overall for the Stone Brothers team.
Having been a racer and had bad times, you know how nice it is for somebody when it turns around.
Oh, it's a sweet feeling, you know, because the frustration when things are not going so well is that you tend to soul search and you feel as though you're doing all the same things in the cockpit. You're braking just as aggressively and you're being accurate, you're making the right line, picking up the throttle, blah, blah, blah. But you're only as good as the car around you, particularly in this category at the moment because it's so close. And the driver obviously has a massive contribution to that, but there's a lot of elements involved in the success to bring any driver onto the podium here.
Stephen Ellery here in the Super Cheap Autos car, dicing with Paul Radicic at the tail of the top 10. Ellery's in 10th, Radicic in 11th, and he's copping plenty of heat here in the closing laps of race 2. We go on board with the Rat. Stephen Ellery.
Hear the floor or the exhaust just strike the serrated ripple strip there on the inside at turn 6, and again there at 8. when you look underneath the cars, sometimes when you come away from these events, they look like they've been to the panel beaters for all the wrong reasons underneath the car.
SuperChip Autos teams had another consistent run here this weekend. Just inside the top 10, but looks like Radicic has got, I'm going to say, looks like a little bit more corner exit speed there coming out of that turn, but it wasn't enough. Ellery's holding him in a straight line.
These two drove together a couple of years ago, didn't they?
Yeah. 1999. Came very close to winning the race at Bathurst that year. So former teammates at DJR. 2 laps remaining for race leader Mark Scaife.
Just to validate what I was talking about there a moment ago, these fellas are battling away there for 10th and 11th, and let me assure you, they'd be giving 110% at the moment. You know, you'll come away from a race meeting like this at the moment, sometimes with a 10th or whatever, and on paper it looks shocking, but the reality is that the driving doesn't change, and the depth of commitment from the whole team doesn't change, but maybe you just didn't quite get that setup right on the day, and it's very difficult to explain in any sensible detail just how important car setup is, and it's a black art in many respects.
Well, you look 15th downwards, you've got Glenn Seaton, Paul Will, Paul Morris, Tony Longhurst, Mark Larkham.
He goes, oh, yeah, look. SuperChip Autos car got a little bit untidy under brakes. Looked like Radicic was going to have a run at him, but he chose not to.
He looks like he actually comes off the corner a bit stronger, but that thing skips away from him.
Yeah, it's got good throttle down coming out of that turn onto the main straight.
This is so realistic. I've got the feet going.
Well, you will have soon, not long now.
It is amazing. When you watch this, it's such a realistic view of what precisely what you see and just how hard it is. Keep in mind for Paul, you got pressure on Steve. He's battling, trying to stick to his line, and for Paul, he's got to keep the pressure on, and he's doing it blind because you lose all your braking reference. You have to some extent, put your faith in the other guy. Well, the big cheer on the hill is for Mark Scaife, leader, and he will be the eventual race winner as they come up to the finish line, and Mark Scaife 2 from 2.
Amazing performance from the Holden Racing team, and there's the crew giving a big cheer. Also for Jason Bright, did a great job coming home 3rd in race 2. So another very strong performance from the Holden Racing team, and that 286 points. Oh, Lowndes.
Lowndes. Got a whack.
That was on the main straight.
What was that?
Well, he's just gone across the line there, and he's showing 8th. So who did what to who there?
I wonder if there was contact coming out of that final turn. It seems very strange to end up over that side of the straight. Big moment there for Craig Lowndes and the Gibson Motorsport team. But this man really on top of his form at Oran Park Raceway may have had to take a back seat to Craig Lowndes in qualifying, but boy, when the crunch came, race trim absolutely dominant, brilliantly fast in the race laps. Team well drilled in the pits. Let's have a look at this. Oh, Tander. So, big dust up on the final turn.
I think Lowndes will still be 3rd on the day, according to my numbers. Here's a replay from a different view, looking backwards from Craig's car. Well, I don't reckon they're going to think too favourably about that one.
Yeah, I reckon you're right there.
Whoa. Craig gets it all gathered up. It's back onto the race, but he lost a valuable position there. Went back to 8th in the end.
Yeah, 4 places he lost.
Oh, that was a bit frantic right at the conclusion of that event. So Scaife wins from Bernard Bright, Tander 4th, but a question mark. Then Johnson, Ingle, McConville and Lowndes ended up finishing 8th.
Todd Kelly and Paul Radicic rounded out the top 10. Stephen Ellery good effort there too.
Let's go down now to Greg Rust with Mark Scaife. Well, Mark Scaife, a solid performance today. 2 from 2. You just brained them. Well done.
But the car was just fantastic, Rusty. It looked after its tyres. I mean, from mid-race on, then I looked after the tyres. I didn't need to go any harder. There was a 5-second gap, and I just looked after the gap. But I mean, this place has just been such a great, happy hunting ground for the team over the years, and the car just suits the place. It's just unbelievable.
Great effort by you and HRT. Congratulations.
Thanks, Rusty.
Well, Dave Bernard, you set the V8 Supercar world alight 12 months ago when you qualified 3rd in your first outing at Queensland Raceway. The team said on the radio, what's taken you so long to get up here on the podium?
Oh, mate, it's a number of things. I'll be here all day telling you. You've probably only got a minute or so. But, no, it's just when you go through a hole like that, it's so hard to get out of. You try too hard, things just go wrong. Got the car a little bit better suited to me, and, that's helped a hell of a lot. It's all just starting to happen, and we're going to stay up here too, hopefully.
Looks like you are back on track. Congratulations, Dave Bernard. Well done.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Well, Craig Lowndes, the day started with pole position. Unfortunately, it didn't end that way, but you're at least on the podium. Well done.
Well, thank you, Greg. It is a big turnaround from Calder, and we found some problems with the car. This weekend started off a lot better, but just couldn't sustain it. But at least for the guys, for Gibson guys, it's a credit to them to be on the podium.
Quickly, what happened at the end there?
I just got hit from behind and turned around. There's no tread on the back wheels.
Well done.
Thank you.